I'm going to make this 2D flat isometric animation in Blender. I will start with modeling, then I will do the materials part, and then finish it up with an animation. I will try to make this video beginner-friendly, so throughout the process, I will try to explain each and every step. So without wasting any time, let's get started.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me
Before starting the scene, I need to do some settings. First, set the render engine to EV. And the second setting, scroll down at the bottom, you will find color management, set it to standard. Before modeling anything, I need to set up the scene. You can see in these isometric images that the camera is on the top of the subject, and its view is in orthographic. So before modeling, we will set up a basic template scene for your model. To set up the scene, add a cube mesh. I want this anchor point to be the bottom of the cube. So go to the front view by hitting 1 on numpad, then hit Z to open up this menu and select this option for wireframe mode. Now go to the edit mode and select the whole cube by pressing A and then press G to grab, then hit Z for the Z axis, and then hit numpad 1. This will place your cube above the grid, and the pivot point will be on the bottom of it. Now add a camera. Go to the top view, then rotate the camera so that it faces towards the object. Now hit G and then Y to move it along the Y axis. Change the resolution to more like a square ratio. To rotate our camera, I will parent it through an empty so that I can easily manipulate the rotation. Add an empty, let's choose sphere empty. Now select the camera first, then the empty and hit Ctrl P and set it to object. Go to the side view by hitting 3 on numpad. To rotate it, hit R and then type 45. To rotate it 45 degrees. Hit enter to register the action. Now go on the top view and rotate here as well by 45 degrees. To see the camera view, hit 0 on numpad. As you can see, we are getting perspective, but in isometric images, there is no perspective lines. That's why it is called isometric. So to achieve, select the camera and go to the camera settings and set this type to orthographic. Now it is isometric. Let's move the empty along Z axis so that the center of the empty lines up with the vertex of this cube. It's too much top view, I want more of its front side view. So select the empty and select this rotation option. This will give you the rotation gizmos to control it. Currently it is showing the global orientation, set it to local. Now rotate it with the X-axis gizmos like this. Now it is okay. Let's move the camera down a bit by moving the empty down. Let's select the camera and the empty object and throw them to a layer by pressing M, then New Collection, and then name the collection to camera, and disable it from the view for now. Let's start the modeling. First, get rid of this timeline because we are not animating anything here. Now it's better. Let's just make this viewport shading a bit better. Go to this option and select this icon and then check this random so that every object will have a random colors to them. And also check this cavity and shadow as well. Better. First, I will be creating the base for the building. So go to the edit mode and hit Ctrl R to add a loop cut. Move it down by hitting G and the Z key for the Z axis. Now select this whole face loop. Right click and select Extrude Faces along normals. Okay, now let's separate the building from the base. So select the faces of the building and hit P and then separate selection. Now there are 2 objects. Let's make the ceiling a bit high. Let's go to the camera view. So here will be its front view of the building, and this is the side view, and those views which are not visible in the camera, I will not make them. So this will be a 2-story building. That's why I am adding a loop cut here in the middle. So this will be the ground floor and this will be the top floor. To have the windows and door, I will make a 3-face partition here. So add the loop cut in the middle here and scroll your middle mouse wheel to add 1 more loop. So here will be the windows. Here I will make a door, and this area would be the shopping window. Let's make those partitions on the side as well. Select this middle edge loop by Alt-left clicking on the edge and press Ctrl B to bevel the edge. This for the coffee shop board placement. Now I am going to make the door. For this, add 4 edge loops on this area, and then select these 2 and hit Delete key and select Dissolve Edges. Now this is for the door of the shop. I want to add a door here as well, so I will do the same thing here. Now select both the faces and separate them by hitting P and then selection. Now I will extract the windows, but first I need to clean up these faces. But these faces are not identical. I need only 3 but equal faces. I want the same face portion on this face as well, like these faces have. For this, first of all, delete this top. We will add that later. To select with array, you have to select the first face, and then hold the Control key, and select the other face. It will select all the faces which are in the path. Hit delete key and delete the faces. Now we have to get rid of these 2 edges. So select the first edge and hit G twice to activate the edge slide mode, and snap it to the corner edge. But the edges are not connected. Select all the faces by hitting A. Hit M and then select distance. This will eliminate all the double vertices from the mesh. Do this to the side as well. Now we get even faces to create the windows. Select the faces and right-click on it, and select Extrude Individual Faces, and hit Enter immediately to register the action. Now you can scale them down, but I will scale all these simultaneously. I will show you after extruding these faces as well. Now select the faces, and go to this option and change it to Individual Origins, and now scale down the faces. I will align the edges of the faces with the door. Like this. Let's bring them down a bit. Hit P to separate them as well. Now for the shop opening. Added a loop cut here, and bring it down a bit. Here I want an edge to have a same order as here. To do it, select this vertex and hit K to activate the knife tool. Select the vertex with the knife tool and hit Z to move the knife along the Z axis, and go up to the bottom and click again to register the cut, then hit Enter. Now we have these faces. I will separate them as well. Let's give some thickness to the wall, hiding all other objects by selecting the object and hit H. Now select the wall and go to this modifier tab and assign this solidify modifier. As you can see, we are getting some thickness here. Let's increase the thickness from here. That's okay. Now hit Alt H to show the hidden objects. Let's make the windows first. Select this object, go to the edit mode, and select all the faces and hit P again, but this time select by loose parts, so all the faces will be independent objects. Select this first face, tab into the edit mode. Hit I to inset a face, select this new face loop, and hit E to extrude along normals. Let's make this shelf thing. So add a loop cut here and move it down up to here. To straighten up the edge, hit S then axis key in which you want to straighten up it, in my case the Z key. Then hit numpad 0. Select this face and extrude it along the normals. Now I will make the frame for the glass. Add 2 edge loops both horizontally and vertically. Select those edges and hit Ctrl B to bevel the edges. This is cool. Now select these faces and extrude them inwards along the normals. So this is our first window. I want to duplicate this windows and place it on the other placements as well. In order to do that first, I want to center the pivot point of the window. So select the Windows mesh and hit this numpad divide key to isolate the object. Now select these outer 4 vertices. Remember, you have to select only these 4 vertices, not other than that. Otherwise, it will set the pivot point depending on the placement of those vertices. Now hit Shift S and then select this option called Cursor to Selection. Now the 3D cursor is on the actual center. Now tab back to the object mode and right-click and then select Set Origin to 3D Cursor. Now the pivot point is on the center of the object. To place it on the other slots, we need to select its vertices. Tab into Edit mode and select all the 4 outer vertices, and again hit Shift S then Cursor to Selection. Now tab back to Object mode and select our window and duplicate it. Again hit Shift S and this time select Selection to Cursor. This way the object will perfectly snap to the placement. Now repeat this same with the other window placements as well. For the sides, you have to rotate the duplicated windows as well. Now I will move to this door. Again, select the object and separate it from the other door. To make the door frame, hit I to inset a face. But here's an issue. Door frames does not have border on the bottom side also. So I will delete this face here. Then select these vertices and again Shift S, then cursor to selection. Then select the whole edge, go to this option and select 3D cursor, and now just hit SZ because this is Z axis and 0 on numpad. Now it's okay. Now select the frame we just created and extrude it along the normals. I want to make the door something like this. Let's select the door face and separate it to individual object. Add a middle loop cut. Here I added some loop cuts to make the frame for the glass. And hit I to inset the faces. Now select these edges and press Ctrl B to bevel them. I want to make the middle one a bit more wider. Now select the faces of glass and extrude them back a bit. Let's make the partition of the door by giving it an edge loop and bevel it and give it another edge loop here. Move the edge loop back a bit and here's the door. Now this door, I will keep this door very simple as this is an exit kind of a door. I will add the handles later. For the shop opening window, I will speed up the process because it is very repetitive. Now I want to add the board, so I added a new cube mesh and scale it to the shape. This is okay. Before anything, let's apply the scale by hitting Ctrl A and scale. Now tab into the edit mode and make the frame for the board. Let's quickly add the roof here. First duplicate the edges of the wall and separate it to individual mesh. And now extrude them up to make the roof fencing. Select the unwanted edges and dissolve them by hitting delete and dissolve edges. Let's increase the thickness more and make the fencing extrude from the walls. To do this, hit S and then Shift Z so that it will scale in both X and Y but not Z. Now let's make this shed. For this, add a circle mesh and delete the half from the top. Select all the vertices and hit F to create the face from it. Now select this new edge and extrude. Now go to its side view and move down the edge to make a slope like this. Now add an array modifier and give some count values. Let's rotate it correctly and place it in the right position. Maybe lower the edge more. To add some thickness, add the solidify modifier. There's a way by which you can place it correctly. First, try to place one of its corner perfectly. And then for the other side, tab into the edit mode and select this corner vertex and hit Shift S and the cursor to selection, and tab back to object mode, and enable this 3D cursor option and now scale it down to match the other end. It looks fine now. Let's move it a bit inside. Now I have to cover the sides. For this, first isolate the shed object. Now tab into the edit mode, select this vertex, extrude it, and then immediately hit right-click so that extruded edge will stay on the vertex. Because 3D cursor is on this vertex, and 3D cursor option is enabled on this option as well, we can hit S then X, and then 0 to have the edge. Now select these two edges and hit F to fill the face. Do the same to the other side as well. Now I will make one more board which would be vertical. So I duplicated the previous board and place it about here. And here is I'm adding some support wooden brackets. For the top, duplicate the top vertices, separate them and fill the face. To do some stairs, duplicate a face from the base and lower the width according to the door. Extrude it, move it back a bit, add a loop cut, select the lower face, extrude to make the stairs. Now duplicate and place it to the other door. Let's make some rooftop elements now. I am making some AC units. Added a cube and shape it. Inset and face here. And right-click and subdivide and give it a ton of subdivision. Now again, right-click and select circle. Inset face again, then extrude it down, separate it. Let's again duplicate the circle, scale down it, extrude it, to make its middle part. Duplicate it and place to its side. Now I am going to make in this rooftop entry. For it I had duplicated the side door and place it on the roof. For the walls, I added a cube and place it here. Adjust its position, then tab into the edit mode and shape it accordingly. Extrude the roof and move it up a bit. Let's make some additional objects like street light, dust bins, or maybe a fire hydrant. To make the street light, add a cylinder, place it, make the shape with extruding faces, scaling them, adding loop cuts, adjusting it. For the top light part, I used an icosphere. Scale it down because it is very big at the moment. Now I am making a fire hydrant. Same process, added a cylinder and shaping it. I duplicated its top part and then rotate it to make the shape. Now that's our simple fire hydrant. Join all the objects by selecting them and hit Ctrl-J. Now scale it down and place it. Now I want to make platform for our coffee shop. I added a plane, inset a face, then select the outer face loop and separated it. Add a solidify modifier to this object to give some thickness. For this area I am going to add some dust bins. I am quickly modeling it with the cylinder primitive object. I duplicated its top faces to make the lid of the dustbin. Duplicated the mesh for another dustbin. Now that's looking fine. Let's add some more details to the top. Select these faces and right-click on it. Select Extrude along normals. Now align these edges in wireframe mode. Try to align them with the flow. Select the vertices or edges, then hit S and then the axis key, in my case Y, and then hit 0 on numpad. This will flat the faces. Now it's time to add some text to the board. So I added a text and typed coffee shop. Wow, what a unique name for a coffee shop. To change the font, select the text and go to its object settings, and click here to open the window. It will open up a window where you can choose your favorite font. Now scale it down and place it on the board. Select the board, tab into the edit mode, select the face, and move the 3D cursor to the selection. Now select the text and move the object to selection. To add some thickness, go to the geometry option and increase the extrude value. Let's change the font. This looks fine. I want to give some bevel value as well, to make some round edges. Now duplicate the text to add on the second board. Let's type something different this time. It's going to be the name of the shop. Maybe Coffee Lover would be a good name. No. There's way too much empty space here. Actually, I can make the board thin, but who cares? Let's change the name so that it fits the board. Maybe Good Day would be a cool name. This looks cool. Let's make the door handles now. I duplicate the handle for this door as well. Now I will make a door sign board for this. Added a cube and shape it as a board. For the string, I added a Bezier curve object and edit its shape so that it looks like this. Now to add some depth, go to this option and increase the value. This is okay now. Let's make some chairs for the coffee shop. I added a cylinder object and scale it down, and also scale down from the Z-axis. For the legs, added plane and tab into the edit mode and delete all the 3 edges except one. Place the vertex, extrude it, bevel it, convert it to curve, give some depth. Now move the 3D cursor to the center of the chair, and duplicate the leg and rotate it to make all the 4 legs. Then add a circle object, place it at here. Convert that also to curves and give some depth. Then I duplicated these chairs. I added some plants, duplicated shed for this door, added the close text on the signboard, and it's done. Materials are actually very simple in this scene, but first, if you haven't seen my previous video on this topic, I had explained the shaders in detail there. Let's split the view and add the shader editor. For the lighting, I'm going to add a sun lamp and position it so that it lights up the front of the buildings and sides will be on shadows. Let's disable the shadow cast for this sun lamp. Increase the intensity a bit. Now I will move to the materials. First, I will select this mesh. Name this wall. Let's apart these and add the shader to RGB node, and then add the color ramp node, set it to constant. Now just move the white handle in the way so that the face of the building got the white color. Now I can change these colors like this. For this scene, I will go for a cool blue color palette. Now what I am going to do is select all the objects and assign the same materials to all the objects. Now I can select a different object and click on this option to duplicate the material. Now I can change its name and also change its color. Now it becomes a unique material. Here I had added one more handle to further add a third color, which is in between these 2 colors. Now let's do the material for this wall. Isolate it. For this material, I want to give a brick pattern to the wall. Here's the texture which I had made in Photoshop. Let's bring that texture into the shader. Hit Control-click on the image node to preview it. Okay, so now I need to make some good UVs to see the brick texture. For this, let's first mark some seams. Select these corner edges and hit Ctrl-E, then mark seams. Do it for all the corners. Now select all and hit U, then unwrap. Still not good, we need to adjust the UVs manually. So replace this view and add the UV editor. Let's close the texture so that we can see the UV better. Now I had select only the front faces. Let's first adjust these. I rotated the UV island and placed it about here. Then selected the side faces and adjusted the UVs so that it aligned with the front face UVs. For the other side UV, I don't care that much, but they are fine. One thing happened here. The material which I am using is now showing in every object. To fix it, I will select the wall object and duplicate its material. Now select any other object. I will disconnect this link to show black on other material. Now back to the shader editor. And now I will add the tiling to the texture. For that, I pressed Ctrl-T with the texture selected. It will bring the texture coordinate and mapping node. Now increase these scale values. The seam is still not looking seamless. Let's see in UV editor. Oh, I got it. The side face UV are rotated in wrong orientation. Let's correct that and align them with edge to edge. Now it is looking fine. Now add a mix shader and plug the color to the bottom socket and brick texture to the factor value. Now I will add some color to these brick lines. For this, I will add an RGB color node and set a good color to this. I want a uniform color in the light and shadow area to give an infographic look. For these windows, first I will separate the glass from the window. So first select all the windows and this door also. Isolate them. Now select the first window and tab into the edit mode. Select the glass faces, then separate them. Do this for all the windows. Let's also separate this shelf object as well. Separate one more thing, which is these inner glass frames, because I will add separate materials to each of these objects. Now select this outer border object, separate its material, change its name, and give some different colors. Now select this inner object and give this also a separate material. For the glass, I just given a single deep blue color. With the same method I had given all the objects different materials with slightly different colors, I had given the roof a material with a tiled box pattern. Here you can see the seamless pattern image. Here, this also had a pattern-driven material. For the shed here, I used two different materials for each part, which I had used alternatively. I had introduced this cool yellowish material, which I had used in the shed, the board, and for the light. Finally, I had given it a background by adding a mesh plane with a single color material, then place it further in distance, and then parent that to the camera. Let's bring our timeline back to the scene. Select this sun and background plane, move it to a collection, and hide it. Also hide the camera so that we can focus on our coffee shop. Before diving into the animation, let's first recenter the pivot points for all the objects. To recenter the pivot point, select the object and right-click on it and set the origin to geometry. Now I will move to the object parenting. I will parent one object to another object, so that when I do the animation on the parent object, the children objects will follow the animation. So that's what I am doing right now, just figuring out which object will I animated and which objects should follow their movements. Let me try to brief this. I parented some mini objects with their main objects, and the every main object is parented to this wall object. Here, I added an empty. This will be the main parent for the whole shop building. So I quickly assign some subparents, and one by one parenting them with the main empty object. Now the whole shop is parented to the empty. Let's select all these extra objects other than the shop. Select these extra objects and throw them to a separate collection and hide it for now. I will animate them later. First, I will animate our shop. Now it's time to animate it. First, I will select the empty and go to about this frame. Open up this keying option and select this location rotation scale option so that whenever I hit I on the keyboard, it will create a keyframe for its location, rotation, and scale. So let's hit I on this frame. Now go to the first frame. Now hit S for scale and hit numpad 0 to make the object scale value 0 at this frame. And then hit I to add the keyframe. Now you can see a basic scale and animation of the object. Let's give some rotation also. So on frame 0, I want to give a value on Z rotation. Hit I to register the keyframe. It's looking cool. Now some technical stuff, which is adding the evil graph editor and adjust the keyframe curves. I am so sorry I cannot explain in depth about this, but those you who can do After Effects animation or motion graphics will understand the graph editor better. For those who doesn't understand it, I highly recommend to watch some Blender graph editor videos on YouTube. Basically, this tool is used to edit the motion path curves. How much you want slow in or slow out, this will define it. I added another keyframe here in between, where the shop is in some extreme pose. With too much spending time, I get this result. Now it's time to select the children objects and give some animation to them also. For this shed, I will do a position animation, like it is coming out from the shop. I will give a simple scale in animation for most of the children objects. The main important part of this animation is timing. The main animation begins, then it will flow the supportive animations as well. I will keep the animation part in time-lapse because it's too repetitive. You can easily see how I am selecting each object and give an animation. For this sideboard, I had done a cool rotation animation, in which I had created a follow-through animation. With the same method, I animated that close signboard. Here I selected all keyframes and moved them forward because now I will animate the base objects which has to become before the shop. Now I enable the other objects and animate them as well. Repeating the same process, I animated every object which I think would look cool. So this is the breakdown of the 2D infographic animation in Blender. You can try it by yourself. You can use it in creating very cool-looking infographic animations for you or your clients. You can also add our previous character to this scene. So this is it for this video. Hope you like this. If you do, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more. Bye.